All right. My name is Al Rogers. I'm with the Progressive Communication Network and the Interfaith Justice League, broadcasting from 900 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest in front of the Mount Vernon Place United Methodist Church. And I have the founder of the Interfaith Justice League on the phone right now. And Barry, your commentary on the current social justice situation, as far as how there are good elements of the Black Lives Matter movement, and of course there are some counterproductive members of the Black Lives Matter movement. Go ahead and take it from there.
Hey, thanks a lot, Al. Thanks for having me on. Just to give you a little bit of background, I am a civil rights attorney. I've represented African Americans in quite a few cases, represented actually Black police officers who sued the city of West Palm for discrimination and retaliation successfully. I represented the family of Corey Jones, who Black youth who was shot by the police, represented homeless against the city of West Palm successfully. I've also probably been the first rabbi, maybe the only one in the Florida legislature, and I founded the Interfaith Justice League, Temple of Understanding. So I've been involved with the issue for quite a bit. I definitely believe I sued the police quite a few times, especially for violence. I do animal rights laws, so they're very trigger-happy sometimes with dogs, and I don't think they're trained properly. They're trained to shoot first and ask questions later with dogs and sometimes with people. So I know both sides of the issue. I believe that what we saw in the video obviously is disgusting, it's outrageous, and you have one officer doing something horrendous and three others watching. It teaches us what the Bible says, that if you stand idly by the blood of your neighbor, and if you fail to chastise them, you will be held responsible for their iniquity.
Absolutely.
In the law, that's never happened before. In the law, if you watch something happen and you don't intervene, no problem. But they've just started changing the law now, and the protests are working. The country is based on protests. Now, these three officers are being charged for watching. And some of them might have been actually participating too, but even the ones who weren't, if you watch and you don't do something, watch out now, because the police are changing the law. So the protests are working, but my contention is the protests did not need in the least Black Lives Matter to get involved in the fray. It was already outrageous what happened on the video. People were up in arms and they were out there protesting. Black Lives Matter opportunistically looked at the situation and said, okay, we can get our message out and we can take the lead, even though they weren't necessary in the process at all. When Corey Jones was shot in Palm Beach County, I got together with the grandfather, who's a bishop, and he said, we don't need them. We don't need to work with Black Lives Matter. We can do this, and we don't want any violent episodes. Some of the organizations are fine. There's different chapters, and some aren't. But there's an overriding element of anger, hostility, sometimes spilling into violent threats, and a definite permeation of anti-Semitism throughout. I know because I've been at events where Black Lives Matter showed up and said horrible things about Israel. Now, I don't agree with all the policies about Israel, just like I don't about the U.S. If I criticize Israel, I do. But to say that they're committing genocide, as some of their documents do, against the Palestinians, that's not just criticizing Israel, that's hate speech. It's anti-Semitism. It's a lie. If the Jews and the Israelis are committing genocide against the Palestinians, they're really, really bad at it. Because the Palestinian population is probably doubled since they've been living under Israeli rule, and Israel keeps providing them with food, water, medicine, jobs. So when you say things like that, when you say lies like that, in a context of 2,000 years of anti-Semitism, in a context of two synagogues being shot up, in a context of Jews fleeing out of Europe, in the context of a major movement now being hit with anti-Semitism, is dangerous. Now, many of my progressive liberal friends don't want me to say that. They say, why are you doing this? It's just causing disharmony. You should back off. Let them just say the message about the black people. You believe in it, and let's forget about the anti-Semitism. But we know from history that if you just forget about anti-Semitism, it has a very dangerous way of overwhelming you. So We should never be silent about anti-Semitism. Any group that's going to take the lead on saying that all lives matter, not just black but Jewish and white and everybody else, they're not the right messenger for this, unless they want to change their ways. I will say, though, that I'm thrilled with the protest. I'm thrilled with people finally recognizing that Colin Kaepernick was correct. I'm thrilled with people recognizing that the police have institutionalized racism that permeates the department. Many people, of course, are not infected by it, but it's a virus and affects too many people. The vast majority of police officers are not racist, do not do anything wrong, and they're good people. But there is a code of conduct where you don't say anything if you see something wrong. That's dangerous. I've seen it myself. When I sue the police and they do something wrong and it's obvious, instead of just saying, yeah, we made a mistake, we'll pay your clients some money, they all start lying. That's wrong. If you're law enforcement, you protect property, you don't take it. And you protect lives, you don't take it. And you tell the truth, you don't lie. Just like with Barr. Barr is lying, saying there were no chemical agents being used to disperse protesters. Barr should be disbarred. And he should be barred from having anything to do with government. He's a liar. He supports a liar. And we need law enforcement people that are actually going to enforce the law, not make a mockery of it. I'll tell you one other thing.
Yeah.
One other thing. Donald Trump mocked Kaepernick when he took a knee, but right now Colin Kaepernick is bringing this government to its knees. He is bringing down the Trump administration to its knees. And you know what? Trump thinks that black lives don't matter. He is about to find out this November that black votes matter, and he's going to find out the hard way that black votes matter when they vote him right out of office and take him out, because he has no business being in the White House. He gives a bad name to the White House, and it'll be a pleasure to see him go, and I'm glad to work with the African-American community on civil rights and also to right this wrong of having a liar and a maniac in the White House.
Well, what Martin Luther King was all about was peaceful demonstrations, and unfortunately, some of those demonstrations have gotten out of hand and they're counterproductive. But on a positive side, they try to pass a law right after Eric Garner was killed that would have outlawed any chokehold throughout. It would have made it a criminal act by any police officer. Right now, they're one by one. Each police department is acknowledging that they had to fire somebody who does a chokehold, but it's not universal. It should be a law that's throughout the 50 states that no police officer is allowed to ignore somebody saying to them they cannot breathe. When somebody cannot breathe, they have a right to life, and they're violating their oath of office to serve and protect when they ignore somebody's plea to allow them to breathe. And
well, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, what was going on there is a travesty. The police department very often don't have regard for life. You saw him push down somebody and he was bleeding, and they just
Buffalo.
By. This is just totally callous, outrageous behavior, and it's about time. They should have reformed a long time ago. I've been pleading for reform in the police department for a very long time. It's about time they started to react. But I will say this: you are right. There are many activists of Black Lives Matter. They're doing the right thing, and they're mobilizing people. But if they're an organization, they have to take responsibility for the organization, cleanse it of these anti-Semitic acts and also some rhetoric that's very harmful. They should correct it and apologize or retract it, and then they can move on. But if they don't do that, it's very harmful to have them leading the charge. But I am thrilled to see that protests are working, and the police department and the officials are starting to do the right thing. Also, one of my problems with Black Lives Matter is they protested Bernie Sanders and heckled him. Bernie Sanders has done everything he could for them. Maybe because he's Jewish, I don't know, but you gotta have some discretion. You don't heckle a guy who's done everything he can to help your movement. It does not make sense. They also went after Hillary Clinton during the election, and I believe turned a lot of blacks away from voting at all. They just basically took a position. They're both vile, so don't vote. And I think that's why Trump got elected.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. I mean,
I don't want them saying that everybody's bad. They also heckled Hillary during the election. That's wrong. They should have they should have backed her 100% so that this maniac didn't get into office. And then once you got elected, then protest, then demonstrate, then speak out. But they should not have kept the black vote away from Hillary to allow Trump to get in. And I really, really hope they don't do that now.
Well,
I hope they don't say, well, both candidates are bad, so it doesn't matter, just stay away from the polls. We need the black vote to go out and vote in droves against Trump and to show Trump that black votes matter and not be neutralized.
well, I mean, in Wisconsin, there was 44,000 less voters that came out to vote in in 2016 than 2012. So that gave Trump that state by itself with the lack of voter participation just in Wisconsin alone. And
a lot of the black votes didn't come through like they thought in the big cities. They kept reporting we're not seeing the turnout that we expected. They're not coming out and voting, and part of it is because groups like Black Lives Matter were telling people, their vote's bad, their vote's racist, everybody's awful, don't go out and vote. And that's so wrong. They're correct. Hillary's not pure, and nor is Bernie. Nobody's pure. But you don't tell people not to vote when you have good versus evil. And so I hope that doesn't happen this time. I hope that they join the people in getting out of office a climate denier, a guy who is vile. We need him out. And so I appreciate your position out in educating the voters. I thank you very much. And just let me know when you need me. I'm always at your service.
well, you can comment. You can comment on this video by emailing the Interfaith Justice League interfaithjustice.league@gmail.com. You can also you'll see this on My Peace TV on the Peace Activist channel tomorrow morning, and anybody want to comment, you can also call the Steve Kane Show at 888-465-2631 with your comments. And Rabbi Barry Silver, I thank you very, very much. And hopefully tomorrow, Congressman Bobby Scott will be available. If he is, he's one of the leading forces for social justice reform and criminal justice reform in Congress for the past two dozen years. I've had the pleasure of working with him for the past dozen years. Congressman Kucinich introduced me to him some 11 years ago. And listen, you have yourself a good night. Thank you very much for calling in.
Before we go, I just want you to know that John Adams, I believe it was, warned the American people against Trumpery. I don't know if you're aware of it. Look it up. He warned them against Trumpery. What Trumpery means is deception and lying. It's related to the word in Spanish, trampa, which means to deceive, or tonk, which is somebody who's deceptive, or to be mistaken. He warned us against Trumpery, and even then, hundreds of years ago, the founding fathers knew that this guy threatened democracy.
Well, you have yourself a good night, and thank you very much for calling in today.
Take care.
Take care. All right.